Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us today. We are excited to be celebrating our golden 50th anniversary season. Whether this is your first time joining us or you are a longtime supporter, we welcome you to the place to be challenged by leading speakers and to advance important ideas collectively. I would also like to send a special welcome to those who are joining us virtually. My name is Tony Mason, and I am President and CEO of the Indianapolis Urban League, and I'm pleased to serve as a member of the Economic Club Board, and I'm honored to serve as today's moderator. Before I introduce our guests at the President's table, I would like to send a special thank you to our presenting sponsor, One America Financial. And our platinum sponsors, all who are represented on the screens behind me. You will note that many of the sponsors have supported us for 15 to 20 years or more. Last season, our luncheon conversations often became trending topics online. Let's keep that momentum going by expanding today's conversation through social media. So if you haven't already, please get out your phones now, post, tweet, or like us so that your friends will know that you're involved with a lively conversation at the Economic Club of Indiana. The Economic Club Twitter handle is at Economic Club IN. You can also tweet by using the hashtag EconLunch. You can also find us on Facebook at the Economic Club of Indiana. As you know from our pre-event email, we offered a special parking rate thanks to our friends at Denison Parking. So if you parked in the Plaza Park garage, please be sure to pick up a QR code after lunch to pay a special event parking rate of a flat $12 rate for the day. That is the normal price for 1 hour parking. So let's give a big thank you to Denison Parking. Now let's present our President's table. Would each of you please stand when I introduce you? We are pleased to have One America Financial as our presenting sponsor for the season. Joining us today from One America Financial is Caroline Mays. Caroline serves as a One America Financial board member as well as a corporate board director. She is also the founder and CEO of Building Leaders and Legacies, as well as Inspiring Leadership, LLC. And she is one of our very on-air personalities as a creator and host of Community Link on Wish TV. Welcome, Caroline. Also, join me in giving a big round of applause again to One America Financial for their generous support. Next, we have Dr. Kalila Marbury with Butler University. They're a longtime platinum sponsor. With more than 22 years of higher education experience, Dr. Kalila Marbury serves as the Vice President of DEI and Student Affairs at Butler University. In addition to her role on the board of Sigma Gamma Rho International Sorority, Inc., she also serves on the board of directors of the Indianapolis Urban League. Yes, Dr. Marbury is one of my 35 bosses. Next, we're pleased to have Gina Miller, President of the Indianapolis Neighborhood Housing Partnership, join us. For 35 years, INHP has been working to create affordable housing solutions for people with low and moderate incomes and collaborating to enhance the quality of life in Indianapolis neighborhoods. Gina also serves on the Economic Club Board of Governors. Special thanks to INHP for serving as today's luncheon sponsor. As we have been celebrating our golden anniversary this season, we have been acknowledging those individuals and organizations throughout the season that have made a significant impact to helping make the Economic Club of Indiana what it is today. Before I introduce and share a thank you and acknowledgement to our next two table guests, let's take a moment to watch this short video as it highlights the history as well as the vision of the Economic Club and how this journey has been made possible because of organizations such as Lilly Endowment.
Welcome to the Economic Club of Indiana, where we've been leading engaging thought since 1974. Virtually every great American city has a forum for intellectual exchange. In Central Indiana, that forum is the Economic Club of Indiana. Our roots trace back to the Penrod Society, a group dedicated to supporting cultural and educational activities in Indianapolis.
Visionaries David S. Orr and John Medvicic and Theodore R. Boehm, inspired by the success of similar clubs in Detroit and Chicago, founded the Economic Club of Indiana on September 16, 1974.
Our journey began with an inaugural event featuring former U.S. Attorney General Elliot L. Richardson, drawing nearly 900 attendees. This was just the beginning.
Over the years, we have hosted a remarkable lineup of speakers, including Secretary of State George Shultz, who set an attendance record in 1985, and foreign dignitaries like former British Prime Minister Edward Heath. These events established the club as a premier platform for influential voices.
The value of the Economic Club today lies in its ability to bring people together. By fostering dialogue and collaboration, we help shape policies and initiatives that drive Indiana forward. Our members benefit from exposure to cutting-edge ideas and the opportunity to connect with thought leaders and innovators. This engagement enriches our community and strengthens our collective ability to address both local and global issues.
As we look to the future, the Economic Club of Indiana is focused on leading the way. We are dedicated to inspiring and equipping both established and emerging leaders with the knowledge and motivation to create positive change. Our forums will continue to feature visionary speakers who challenge us to think differently, act boldly, and embrace new solutions.
The Economic Club of Indiana will play a significant role in shaping the future of our state. By fostering an environment of intellectual curiosity and civic engagement, we will continue to inspire leaders to advance great ideas for the common good. Together, we can build a brighter future for Indiana, one innovative idea at a time.
Join us at the Economic Club of Indiana,
where leaders are made and ideas come to life.
Lilly Endowment has long been a part of the club's history. Tom Lake, former president of Eli Lilly and Company, was the first president of the club. He also served as chairman of the endowment from 1977 until 1992 and chairman emeritus until his passing in 1999. He also served as the endowment's president from 1977 until 1984. Another impactful individual we wish to acknowledge is Gordon St. Angelo, who served as program director in community development at Lilly Endowment for 23 years and was very active with support and programming for the Economic Club. Gordon continued his involvement with the club as a member of its advisory board until his passing in 2011. Clearly, Lilly Endowment has had a significant impact since the inception of the Economic Club, helping it to deliver on its mission to be a community forum for current and emerging leaders to be challenged by extraordinary speakers and engage collectively in advancing great ideas for the common good. With that, please join me in welcoming Clay Robbins, the endowment's current chairman and CEO, and Jeanette Hill, its president. So if they could please be acknowledged. The endowment was founded in 1937 by J.K. Lilly Sr. and his sons Eli and J.K. Jr. to support the causes of community development, education, and religion. The endowment is committed to helping individuals reach their full potential, families to thrive, and communities to flourish through grants to a range of charitable organizations. While the endowment funds programs throughout the United States, especially in the field of religion, it maintains a special commitment to its founder's hometown, Indianapolis, and home state, Indiana. For those of us in this room, where would Indianapolis and Indiana be without the Lilly Endowment? Also joining us is Chuck Preston, who served as program director in community development at Lilly Endowment for more than 30 years before retiring in 2023, during which time he continued the endowment's support of the club through his personal involvement with the board. Chuck continues to be actively involved in the Economic Club by serving on its advisory board and multiple committees, including the executive committee. Welcome, Chuck. Since its founding, Lilly Endowment has helped charitable organizations further their missions and aims by dispersing more than $15.2 billion in grants to more than 11,000 charitable organizations, with the majority of these being based in Indiana. We're going to hear more from today's speaker on the impact of an initiative made possible with the support of Lilly Endowment. You're going to hear more about the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Renewal Initiative. More to come on that. But before I introduce our featured speaker, please join me in a big round of applause to thank Lilly Endowment for all that they do to make our community stronger and a better place for all. After lunch, we will hear from our featured speaker, President of the National Urban League since 2003, Marc Morial. More about our speaker after the break. Will you please join me in one more round of applause for all of today's President's Table guests? As usual, you will find on your tables white cards. If you have a question for today's speaker, you can fill out one of these cards, raise it up during our program, and our event team will collect your questions. As a reminder, you can also tweet your questions to @EconomicClubIN, and we encourage you to continue to tweet about today's luncheon. Please enjoy your lunch and conversation, and we'll be back shortly to begin the program. Thank you. Good afternoon. We're going to resume today's program. Again, I'm Tony Mason, President and CEO of the Indianapolis Urban League, and it's certainly an honor to be moderating this afternoon. I also want to share with you that while we're celebrating 50 years of the Economic Club, we're also celebrating 60 years of the Indianapolis Urban League. And I want to be sure to acknowledge our remaining living founder who is present with us today, Ms. Faye Williams. Ms. Faye Williams, if you could wave. And then, of course, I want to acknowledge the presence of the Indianapolis Urban League family, so to speak, if you will. At tables 46 and 47, we have the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life team. If you could please give them a big round of applause. At table 49, we have the Exchange at the Indianapolis Urban League. That is our Young Professionals Auxiliary. Give them a big shout out. And of course, last but not least, at table 48, we have the Indianapolis Urban League staff, our management team leaders. Give them all a big round of applause. Because each and every day we're working to empower communities and change lives. Simply put, it's making sure that people get job training, jobs. The young people are prepared to go to college or go into the workforce. We're addressing health disparities. We're assisting families with critical emergency needs. And the list goes on and on and on, very practical things. And so again, I wanted to make sure I did that acknowledgement. Earlier, you heard me mention the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative. And that's important because since August of 2020, that is when you heard the announcement that the Lilly Endowment had made a $100 million grant to the National Urban League to support the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative, and that would address quality of living issues, social determinants of health around the areas of education, entrepreneurship, employment, health, housing, as well as civic engagement and leadership development. And so real quickly, I would like to turn your attention to the screens for a quick video about the initiative before I introduce our speaker.
overall mission that we have in improving quality of life is to bring together the resources within the African American community itself, coupled with resources, supports that we can from the broader community to improve quality of life in a number of issue areas.
4 years into this work, and with nearly $60 million in grant funds being awarded to nonprofits in this community, we know that impacts are taking place.
The IAA-QLI grant has been more than just a step towards a license. It's been a lifeline that embodies true community partnership.
The support from IAQLI has had an unbelievable effect on the work that we do here. Most recently received a grant that allowed us to partner with Eastern Star Church to build a new construction training center.
IAAQLI has made a huge difference in the lives of residents of the Near West.
We know that $100 million has the ability to tell an effective story. We also know that in some cases it can be used very quickly in any of our pillars. And so we wanted to take this opportunity to tell a collective story. The change is we have the opportunity to create incremental change if continued investment occurs.
And in order to address social impacts and the challenges facing African Americans, it forces you to address education, employment, entrepreneurship, health, housing, and also how we look at our people, our community, and our neighborhoods from a civic leadership and community development standpoint. Real quickly, at each of your tables, there are table tents, and it's about the Quality of Life Initiative. I encourage you to read them, scan the QR code, access all of the great information about the work that's taking place. And again, I would like you to give the Lilly Endowment a huge round of applause. Now it brings me great pleasure to introduce today's speaker. As president of the National Urban League, Marc Morial has been the primary catalyst for an era of change and transformation for the 100-plus-year-old civil rights organization. His energetic and skilled leadership has expanded the League's work around the empowerment agenda, redefining civil rights in the 21st century with a renewed emphasis on closing the economic gaps between whites and blacks and rich and poor. Under his stewardship, the National Urban League has had record fundraising success and secured a Better Business Bureau nonprofit certification, establishing it as one of the leading nonprofit organizations in America. He presided over the League's centennial celebration in 2010, ushering in a new century of service and establishing empowerment goals for every division across the League and its affiliates. Morial's creativity has led to initiatives such as the Urban Youth Empowerment Program, which assists young adults in securing sustainable jobs, and the Entrepreneurship Center programs, which in over 10 cities across the country help to grow small business. He's also created the National Urban League's Empowerment Fund, which has pumped almost $200 million into urban impact businesses, including minority businesses, through debt and equity investments. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Morial led the Urban League in sounding the alarm about the racially disparate impact of the burgeoning coronavirus crisis, commencing an intense advocacy and direct relief campaign later to be called the Urban League Fights for You. Under his leadership, the National Urban League has also responded to the murder of George Floyd with advocacy, organizing, and policy actions, including 21 pillars for redefining public safety and restoring public trust, a framework for criminal justice advocacy. Perhaps one of Morial's most significant contributions to the National Urban League's legacy is the Urban League Empowerment Center in Harlem. This $242 million, 414,000 square foot Urban League Empowerment Center is one of the most significant economic development projects in Harlem's recent history, and a return home for the League, where it was founded in Harlem in 1910. The center will serve as the headquarters for the National Urban League, but it will also be home to the Urban Civil Rights Museum Experience, the New York City's first Civil Rights Museum, the National Urban League's Institute for Race, Equity, and Justice. The center will also bring 170 affordable housing units to Harlem, below market office space for nonprofits and community groups, including the 100 Black Men of New York, the United Negro College Fund of New York, and the Harlem-based Jazzmobile, and retail space for Target and Trader Joe's. Also, for those of you who follow President Morial and the movement, To Be Equal is a syndicated weekly opinion column distributed by the National Urban League to news outlets across the nation since 1963, when it was started as the voice of Black America by National Urban League President Whitney M. Young, Jr. The column has been authored by Marc H. Morial since 2003. Thank you. Please join me in welcoming National Urban League President Marc Morial to the podium.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Now, I said it here first. I am going down to New Orleans for the game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs, but I said it here first. Next year, the Indianapolis Colts are going to be in the Super Bowl. I said it here first. Place your wagers now. Let me offer my thanks to Tony Mason, who's been a stalwart leader in this community for many decades, for his continuing leadership and for the introduction. Tony, we owe you a warm round of applause for your great leadership here in Indianapolis. And let me also express my appreciation and acknowledge all of the members of the Indianapolis Urban League family, staff, board, volunteers, young professionals, guilders. If you all would all stand now, I want to make sure everyone sees you and we give you the appropriate recognition and applause. They're all over the room. Thank you all. And the leader of the Lilly Endowment, Clay Robbins, is, yes, a great American. His leadership there has been formative to so much of the work that's happened in this region. But very importantly, it was his idea for the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative. Let's acknowledge Clay. Thank you, Clay. Thank you, Lilly. Thank you. And the leaders of the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life team, I know Willis Bright is not with us today, but the entire team of hardworking professionals, consultants, and others who work very hard, I want to let you know your work is seen and welcomed and thanked. Let's give them a warm round of applause. My two partners at the National Urban League who've been on the point, Dennis Surrett and Leslie Andrews are here. Give them a warm round of applause. They have been working really hard with Tony to make sure this initiative is well organized. And then John Mead and all of you who are part of the Economic Club. I got the original formal invitation from John, and I'm grateful to be here for the third time. I was here in 21. I was here in 11. Now, I noticed that the standard for the club was intellectual thought. Do you want to hear a story? Do you want to hear a story that you can judge whether it meets the standards of intellectual thought? But I thought in the times in which we live, a little levity is good. I finished law school, Georgetown University Law Center, went back to my beloved hometown of New Orleans and joined a downtown law firm. I was excited to join that firm. I was the first African-American lawyer that they had hired at that time. There had only been 5 African-American lawyers to work for the top 50 law firms in New Orleans. I got about my work, I got about my business. About a year and a half to 2 years in, I got anxious. I got excited. I felt a little constrained. And I decided to do something that my mother thought was just a horrible idea. And that was to leave the law firm and go try to build a law firm on my own. My mother thought I was crazy, but she said, I can't stop you, but you continue to be responsible for all your own bills, including that student loan you took out. Well, long story short, when you're out there trying to build a law practice, you immediately must become an expert on just about anything and everything, particularly if it's a client that will pay a fee. And so one day, a woman walked in. She had been referred by someone, came into the firm. Let's call her a seasoned citizen. And I certainly thought she was coming in maybe for the purposes of some estate planning or will or something with property. She looked at me and said, young man, you're the lawyer? I said, yes, ma'am, I am the lawyer. She said, well, you kind of young, huh? I said, I just look good. And she said, I said, how can I help you today? She said, I need a prenuptial agreement. I said, a prenuptial agreement. I said, okay. I said, I'm going to have to ask you some questions here. I need to find out how many times you've been married before so that this prenuptial agreement doesn't get entangled with any of your prior relationships. She said, well, I'll tell you that this is going to be my fourth marriage. I said, well, tell me about the first marriage. First time I married a man with a whole lot of money. He was a lot older than me. We had a grand time and enjoyed it. And then all of a sudden, he just one day, his heart went out and he was no more, but I was left with the money. I said, in the second marriage, she said, well, the second time, I married a good-looking, fast-talking guy. We continued to have a good time, except this time the good time was on my money. My money, and then what happened? He said, well, one day he just didn't come home. He left me, and we had spent all of the money that I had inherited from my late husband. I said, okay. What about the third one? She said, well, I changed gears. She said, I really, really changed gears. I decided to become the first lady of a church. I married a pastor. And again, you know, he was older than me, and I decided to change my lifestyle a little bit and function as the pastor's wife. And I said, well, what happened? Well, you know, babe, he didn't make it. He was older than me. I had to bury him. I said, okay, now the fourth marriage, let me find out a little bit about this fourth one. She said, well, I'm going to marry a undertaker, a funeral director. I said, a funeral director. And then she cracked. She said, yes, my fourth marriage. 1 for the money, 2 for the show, 3 to get ready, and 4 to go. Good afternoon, Indianapolis. First, I want to take a few minutes to give this community a bit of a report on the important work and success of this Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative. The initiative is, in essence, what we call a place-based initiative. It was designed to focus on a discrete geographic area that, of course, is predominantly historically African American here in Indianapolis. And it was designed to see if we could, in partnership with the Indianapolis Urban League and the leaders in this community, with the generosity of the endowment, the Lilly Endowment, to stand up an initiative to make a difference when it comes to some of the long-standing social and economic disadvantages that community face. And I'm here today to report that in just a few short years, this initiative is making an enormous difference in the people it's been able to touch. This is hard and difficult work. But why it's important for me to report to you is because everyone should know how and who and what the impact of this kind of investment has indeed meant. And the approach we took to undertake a series of a six-pillar strategy. So important at the beginning of this process was that there was an extensive, careful, and sometimes it seemed to be endless community planning process. To talk to the community, to let the community fuss and fight, let the community debate and discuss the best approach as to dealing with longstanding problems. No single investment in time can eradicate the long historic disadvantages. But what it can do is point to things that, if we can sustain them, make a difference over a long period of time. This planning process was crucial, because in the design of this initiative, it was the community's voice. It wasn't the Urban League or the National Urban League or the Indianapolis Urban League going into a private room or going on to the top of a mountain and waiting for a declaration from above as to what to do. It was the community saying, here are 6 areas that we need to focus. Those areas: business and entrepreneurship, education, employment, health and wellness, housing, and leadership, form these 6 pillars. I want to share with you just some highlights of what has been accomplished. First, in education, thus far over 16,000 people have been impacted. I want to lift up today Alicia Johnson and Judah Ministries. Is she here in the room? Is she here in the house, Tony? If not, if she's here, would she please stand at this time? I want her to stand. One of the things that the initiative has supported is the expansion of early learning. Every single piece of data shows that children that have a high-quality early childhood experience do better in school, elementary, middle, and high, are more likely to graduate, and more likely to stay out of trouble. So this investment has helped her not only expand the number of people she touches, but importantly, help her upgrade and improve on the quality of the professionals and the educators and the teachers who serve those young people. We know now children can start learning to read at 2 and 3. They can start learning sentence structure. They can start learning numerosity. They can be exposed to technology and computers. This is just smart. So give Judah Ministries and Alicia Johnson another round of applause. And then she's just put one example in this, on this pillar. Second, when it comes to jobs and economic development, almost 1,500 people have received training to assist them in qualifying for and pursuing jobs that pay a living wage. Why is a living wage important? I believe fundamentally, and I hope you do, that when someone has a job and they work, they ought to be able to pay their bills, that they ought to be able to afford housing, food, health care, and to take care of the basic necessities of life. And they ought not have to work and then go get a second job, and then get a second job and sometimes rely on other family members and friends to help them get along. So our focus is on jobs that pay living wages. Not to knock any other job, because when you're trying to make ends meet, you do what you have to do when it comes to a job. So in this area, I'm very, very pleased that we're making progress. This is a very challenging area. And I want to lift up the Community Alliance for the East Side. that has done healthcare training for 150 people. Is Kendra Novell in the room today? Is she with us? Then in the critical area of housing, these are some impressive numbers. Because again, this is hard work. Quality, having a quality roof over your head, I think is a basic right. Having a quality roof over your head for your children, the people you're concerned about, the people you love, is a basic right. So in this area, between building new homes, repairing and rehabbing homes, some 1,000 families have been positively impacted, and we want to give everyone who's worked in this area a big round of applause. They have made a difference. This area is central to the ability of families to achieve economic independence. If they own a home, to build wealth. It's a basic part of the American dream. This nation's middle class was built on education and home ownership and quality jobs. And that is what this is all about. This is not fancy schmancy. This is fundamental and basic. So all those, I have Beverly, I have Terrence, I have Ronald, I have Dennis, I have, I believe, Annie. All of you who've worked in this area, if you're here in the audience, I want you to stand up. Stand up if you've been a part of providing these almost 1,000 families your organization has with either new homes or home repair and rehabilitation. Please stand. Let's give them a big round of applause. I want to thank you all. You're making things work. Health and wellness and leadership and civic engagement, but I did want to also highlight also in this area the Father and Families Initiative feature that Larry Smith's organization operates. I'm a dad. No matter what kind of dad you think you are, you can always be a better dad or a better granddad. Now see, the mamas, they were born with it. The dads are not always born with dads. I'm speaking as a father of 3, grandfather of 1. But I really like this initiative because they're helping dads with career training, CDL and HVAC, but importantly, helping men gain confidence, insight, and knowledge about how to be a good father, be a good community leader, and confront some of the challenges we face. Let's give Larry and the work he does a big round of applause. Thank you, Larry. All of this has been super, super impressive. And I do want to highlight one initiative in the civic engagement space, and this is the Peace Learning Center. This is an initiative that works with young people to help them learn socialization, relationship, and leadership skills. And I really like this because this is something we need to do a lot more of in the community. No nation in the history of human beings has ever failed because it invested too much in their children. No, you can't find one. In all of the nations, whether you go back to the ancient Greeks, the ancient Romans, the ancient Ethiopians, who invested in their children, in their education, in their understanding of history and culture, became a nation of success. With the challenges that a lot of our young people have, living in a world of social media, living in a world of busy parents, living in a world of non-traditional families, we can't treat the present as though recreating 1950 is the way. We have to confront the here and the now, and investing in the socialization, in the leadership skills of our young people simply helping them understand how to resolve conflict without violence, helping them understand their responsibility to themselves, to their families, and to the community is just something I really like that this initiative is doing. So let's give everyone who's worked on this thus far, these are just tidbits, highlights, the tip of the iceberg of the important work that's been done. So if you've worked on this initiative, I'm gonna get you to stand one more time. We're gonna give you another big round of applause. This is important work. Thank you, Clay Robbins. Thank you, Tony Mason. Thanks to everyone. Let me take a few minutes and try to give some context to some of the issues that are challenging this country today. I am a fundamental believer, and I think you all are, in what I call basic American values. On the coin are the words e pluribus unum, out of many one. In the Constitution, amongst many, many great, great words and philosophies and values, is equal protection of the laws. This country was founded on the principle of economic opportunity. And we've prided ourselves over the long course, even through difficult, challenging times and division, as being a nation where it doesn't matter the circumstances of your birth, you can truly, truly rise up the economic ladder. The last 60 years in this country have been remarkable. A journey set in place in the 1950s after World War II. Soldiers came home. Black soldiers felt marginalized, but our entire purpose for going into Eastern Europe and Asia and sacrificing, going into great debt and sacrificing all those lives was not to capture land, but to stand up for philosophy. And that philosophy was democracy over authoritarianism. It was one of the great moments in American history. When the soldiers went to war, women went into factories. When the manpower got short, the segregated army continued, but then there was a need for more black soldiers. And then when this nation, in the post-World War II period, when people came home and soldiers came home, people then understood the contradiction of having defeated Adolf Hitler and Hirohito, two authoritarian conquerors, and having a system of racial segregation and discrimination in this country. The civil rights experience and the expansion was born of this nation's commitment to American democracy. And a nation that looked itself in the mirror and said, we're not living up to the true meaning of our creed. And that set off this last 60-year period of a nation that created avenues of opportunity for a lot of locked out and left out communities. And I submit to you, we're a better nation for it. We're a stronger nation. We have a stronger economy. We're a nation that's not without challenges and not without, but to suggest somehow that the best way to go forward is to recapture a time long past, I just categorically reject. So what do I mean? My personal story is as a young man born as a boy in the waning days of segregation, who got an opportunity to go from the very beginning to integrated schools. First African American, my sister and I, to go to our elementary school. My middle school, I integrated. My high school, I was one of 14 black students of 1,000. I got a chance to walk through some doors and then got an opportunity to attend an Ivy League institution, the the University of Pennsylvania that I never heard of until a recruiter walked into our school and told the guidance counselor she wanted to see some students, and please make sure if this school has Black and Asian students that they're in the room. And I got this incredible opportunity. Now, in those days, the mere fact that she came and asked for Black and Asian students, not exclusively, but as part of a group of almost 20 students, might have been called DE&I. So maybe I got to the University of Pennsylvania on DE&I. But let me tell you something, when I got there, nothing helped me get A's in economics. Nothing helped me graduate and go to a top 10 law school and sit for the bar and get to where I am. But the door was opened. The door was opened. What we can't do in America today is begin to close the door. We can't close the door. We will pay dearly and handsomely for it in a changing America. Look at the contributions of women. Look at the contributions of women to every single walk of life. In 1965, the year after the Civil Rights Act passed, there was not a single woman leading a Fortune 500 company or serving as a president of a university unless it was an all-women's college, or serving as an astronaut or a scientist or leading a hospital. Was it because they didn't have merit, or was it because the door was not open to give them a chance? We have to give everyone a chance. I'm asking everyone to stand up, not necessarily for nomenclature, but to stand up for the fundamental American principle of economic opportunity. Everyone has a right to the American dream. And I just fundamentally, it strikes me as being wrong to disparage people, to smear things, to create fear and confusion. I just don't think that's America. Now, I understand politics. I was in elected office. I'm a recovering politician, right? I understand the pressures politics face on both sides. But at the end of the day, the question is always going to be where you stood in times of challenge and controversy, not in times of comfort and convenience. And standing up for what you believe in is how we will ultimately all be judged. So I am really, in today's America, I have great concerns, but let me tell you what I have faith in. I have faith in the people of this nation. I have faith in their ability, even in difficult times, to stand up and bend the curve towards what is right. And I'll tell you something, the 20th century was remarkable, one of the most remarkable centuries in the history of humankind. It gave us a technological revolution that gave us automobiles, airplanes, computers, dishwashers, washers, dryers, toasters, microwaves. Gave us all of that. It was also a century that gave us this idea of equal rights, whether it was for women or historically locked out and left out communities. The country bent the arc and opened the doors. And it was a century where we sacrificed to defeat authoritarianism in Europe. I don't want this generation, our generation, to be a generation that 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now, when some of us are here and most of us are gone, when our children and children's children look back and say, you know what, generation of my parents, they really, really did us in. They put us backwards and made us refight the battles that our grandparents had to fight. That's what's on the line. That is what is on the line right now. Where do we stand? We can debate how to get there, but we should never debate whether to make this nation a fair and equitable nation for all people. We cannot debate that. So in this moment, this very initiative we've talked about just represents an example of how a commitment by great Indiana-based philanthropy can try to bend this curve, how it can bring people together because there are some resources to do some things that people imagined for a very, very long time. But this initiative and this commitment of resources will come to a conclusion at some point. And there's going to be a need to continue these initiatives. And I'm hopeful that this community will find ways and means, and others will step up to not only continue this initiative, but to do other initiatives like this. Because when we water plants, we don't water for one season. We have to water and water and water. And many of the people in these communities haven't gotten enough water. So we can't water and say, boy, we watered for 5 years. Now we don't have to water anymore. We have to continue to water and invest. So I want to thank everybody. We're going to do a little bit of Q&A. I did want to make sure I address issues at hand. I believe that America is a great nation. We have to ensure that it's a great nation for everyone. We can't lock out, leave out any Americans. The founding fathers of this nation believed through the vision of the world that they saw that they were a very diverse group. They were from Scotland, they were from England, some were Quakers, some were Episcopalians, some were Presbyterians, some of them were deists. They had very different philosophies about a whole host of things. And of course, we know they left women, they embraced the pernicious system of slavery, but think that they were in their own vision of the world at that time. They didn't see themselves as all European. They saw themselves as a very, very diverse group. But what did they do? They found a way to create a nation. And we are the inheritors of that, and our responsibility is to continue to perfect that and bend this curve towards the values that are written in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, so that those words are not empty slogans, empty words, but truth and reality. So I'm Marc Morial, I'm president of the National Urban League, and I authorize this message. Thank you. You want to sit down?
Let's give it up for that powerful message. Now we're going to quickly transition to Q&A, and you heard the great things about the initiative. I also want to acknowledge the work of the Indianapolis Urban League affiliate. Each year we serve 50,000 people through all of the programs and services that align with what we do with the Quality of Life Initiative. And so again, big shout out to the Indianapolis Urban League affiliate too.
Some questions?
Yep. So President Morial, I'll start us out here real quickly, because I know we're getting close on time. What does this opportunity, the Indianapolis African American Quality of Life Initiative, represent for the National Urban League?
I think it represents a demonstration of how a place-based initiative that begins with a long-term commitment, 5 years of funding, can make a difference. Sometimes in our work, we're patching together things. You know, sometimes I'm like, I got Scotch tape, bubble gum, Elmer's glue, and yeah, we get it done, right? But in this instance, the ability to sit back and know that for 5 years we have a particular commitment of dollars. It's focused on this geographically specific area. Gives us a chance to, I would say, proof of concept, with the hope that this kind of initiative plants a seed, lays the groundwork, but might be replicated in other parts of America. I mean, whether you go to East Cleveland, South Side of Chicago, North Philadelphia, parts of East Los Angeles, you can find communities that need to be watered, that need to be invested in, and that if we invest in them and water them, the beneficiaries are going to be not just that community, but the whole community.
Yes. So we've got a question from the audience, and it says, what challenges does the National Urban League face from the elimination of DEI throughout the current administration?
I think the effort, I hope that we're able to push back on this effort to eliminate so-called DE&I, because I'm beginning to feel that DE&I is being used as a code word. Code word. Because in some private conversations, when I talk, they say D&I, and then the next word out of their mouth is LGBTQ. And then the next word out of their mouth is, well, blacks and immigrants. Like it's a code word that it doesn't speak to. And then some of the folks battling to eliminate DE&I, and I want you all to really, really stay with me on this, they've constructed a false narrative. Now, why? Not only is it false, it's what I call a replay. My mother used to always play on the record player in our living room when I was growing up a song by Ray Charles called Hit the Road Jack. I know the words of the song because it would play over and over and over and over again. Some of the opponents of DE&I have sought to suggest that there's a tension between the concept of merit and the concept of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this is they're playing logical gymnastics. What diversity, equity, inclusion was about was giving everyone with merit a chance. What does that mean? Giving everyone's resume a chance to be read, giving everyone an opportunity to be interviewed, giving everyone an opportunity. And we have to acknowledge, historically, there were jobs, they weren't women jobs. There were historically jobs, black people don't apply. Quarterback in the NFL was one of them for a long, long time. Now we got 2 black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. Or those for whom English was a second language need not apply. And so I like to think that DE&I and merit go together like red beans and rice, hot dog and mustard. Y'all told me about this pork sandwich y'all eat here in Indianapolis. And that plus the bread you use, right? They go together because what we're trying to do is open a door. And it is not inconsistent with the concept. The standards don't lower. They don't change. Anyone who looks at the specifics of this, and I'm saying, I'm going to debate anyone, argue with anyone, and try to persuade and convince people to not fall for what I call the okey doke. And the okey doke is that DE&I is inconsistent with merit, right? It is about creating opportunity and finding ways to create opportunity. Just like I mentioned, when I was in high school, I didn't know that the University of Pennsylvania existed. I knew the schools, the historically black schools in my hometown, Xavier, Dillard, Southern University. I knew about Tulane and Loyola. But for the fact that that recruiter came to my high school. Now, here's what I know. Left to the guidance counselor, I would have never been in the room. Because the guidance counselor had a history of telling black kids, well, you really shouldn't be, you can't be a lawyer. He's telling black kids, you can't be a doctor, even though they're honor students. He said, oh, you ought to go be a teacher. You really can't be a doctor. So I knew if that guidance counselor had picked the kids, then about 4 of us who were in that room wouldn't even been in that room. I got an opportunity to get in that room. And because I got an opportunity to get in that room, I applied to a school and I got admitted to the school. I use that to be illustrative of what we're trying to do here. And it's not just with African Americans, it's with Latinos, it's with the LGBTQ community. I mean, LGBTQ community, you know, would have to put on a false front and pretend to be who they weren't to be accepted for many of these jobs. I mean, let's just talk the reality, right? That's not America. That is not America. And so we have to really make sure that what we're doing is creating opportunity for all. And it's fair to debate the best way how. But I'm asking you to reject this notion that civil rights, diversity, equity, and inclusion requires a lowering of standards. I told someone, you think Serena Williams is a DE&I tennis player? You think Caitlin Clark is a DE&I basketball player? Give me a break.
And so, President Morial, real quickly, what would you say to the young professionals, the Gen Zs, the millennials that are in this room, about what they can do to play a role in ensuring that America stays on track?
They got to be the best they can be. They got to be the best they can be. They got to invest in themselves, invest in their skills, invest in their abilities, be the best they can be. And number two, be active citizens, active in the community. You have to vote. You have to participate. Do not fall only in love with TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, right? It's a method of communicating, but there's a tendency with social media. It's like my kids, they're now 18, and my younger kids, 19 and 22. It'd be like 12, 13 years old. So-and-so's my friend. Like, wow. And then I'm saying, have you ever met him? Oh, no, Dad, I never met him. I just talked to him on Facebook, and I'm thinking, that's your friend? I mean, do you know your friend? I mean, there's a sense of, you know, the point I'm making is I like our young professionals because it creates a method and a way for them to interact with each other in person, for them to organize community-based activities, for them to share, you know, their joys, their pains, their hopes, and their aspirations together. And so we have to encourage our young people to continue to be joiners and participants. But we also have to not only help them become the best that they can be and encourage them to do so, I also think that we cannot, as we get older, become judgmental. See, we become judgmental. We begin to say, well, you know, these young people, if they would only, I usually say, what were you like, right? What were you like? I know I had a big old afro. I went to my grandmother's house. She said, get out of here, right? You know, I mean, we all have these experiences, right, where, you know, you were doing things, wearing clothes or wearing your hair, or using language that, you know, the older folks thought, what's wrong with these young people, right? We have to guard against that and be encouraging and supportive. Yeah, tough love is a part. I don't doubt that.
Does the National Urban League partner with other civil rights organizations to strategize on how to deal with the challenges that we're facing in this moment?
Tony, we partner with civil rights organizations, business organizations, labor organizations, faith organizations. We partner with politicians of all stripes as long as it is aligned with our work and our mission. And so we are actively helping to lead, pull together a coalition on DE&I. It includes African American, Hispanic, Asian, LGBTQ organizations, Jewish organizations, and Muslim organizations as well. We're going to expand the faith reach even further than what we have. But the answer is yes. We can't move this nation if we don't think sometimes in terms of coalitions. And those coalitions, I'm not talking about how they talk about it in Washington, I'm talking about coalitions that are coalitions of communities on the ground, from different backgrounds, from different genres, from different walks of life, different races, different religions, right? We have to find, and we're not going to sit in the room and agree on everything, but can we find some basic fundamentals that we can agree on and work on? And that's what leadership in the 21st century is going to be about, I really believe. So Yeah, we're active in doing that. As you know, you do it on a local level.
Yes.
We encourage our affiliate leaders to do it on a local level, but we're very active in coalition building.
And last but not least, what is your challenge to everyone in this room, governmental leaders, civic leaders, corporate leaders?
What's beautiful about a room like this and an organization like the Economic Club is it represents the people who are truly involved in community, the people who love and care about their community. They're not going to just sit at home and grumble and complain. They're going to be active and involved. I encourage you to remain active and remain involved and expand the flock. Expand the flock of people who are active and involved in the work of the community. That's my challenge and that's my ask, because I feel if that's the case, if we bring then the right decisions are going to end up happening. The decisions that are based on common values, on fairness. It is when people don't do that or don't try to do that, and there's always, that doesn't mean that everything involves that approach, but stay active, stay involved. You love this city, you love this community, work to make it better. Fight to make it better. Fight to make it better all the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for National Urban League President Marc Morial.